Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Chatting Category Romance. This is a second channel that I have with Sarah at the Bookish Knitter. Our information is down below if you want to go and subscribe to our channels. We are BookTube besties, and on this channel we talk about category romances, which, if you don't know anything about romance, except what you see in the grocery store or the checkout stand, you will know category romances as the most disposable, most forgettable, trashiest romances of them all. Now, the point of Chatting Category Romance is the point of Sarah's channel forever and ever. I've been making this point as well on my own channel, is that you can't judge trash by its cover. Yes, category romances are extremely constricted. You have a page count, you have a theme monitor, there are subcategories, you can't stray out of them, etc., etc. Your plot contrivances are set ahead of time. They are built on the expectation of the reader, not the muse-driven impulses of you as the writer. And literary snobs have from time immemorial looked at something like that and said, well, that must be trash. And I have always pointed out to them, oh, so you look at the same thing about a Shakespearean sonnet. All of the things I just said apply to a Shakespearean sonnet as well, so they're trash? No. No. If it was a Shakespearean sonnet, you would say, oh, no, it's all about how well it's done. Same thing with romance. It's the same thing with anything. There is no hierarchy of aesthetic expression. It's the same thing with romance. It's all a question of how it's done. And I think Sarah would agree with me. She knows category romances much, much better than I do. I think she would agree with me, though. The whole point of this channel is that the ladies who write these category romances can often do a really good job. They don't have to resort. She's read plenty that are really bad, and so have I. When it comes to category romance or even mainstream romance, we've read plenty that are garbage, the bad kind of garbage, the kind of garbage that's just a waste of your time. But then there's a good kind of garbage, right? There's a good kind of garbage. That it's still very much a waste of your time, but oh, you're going to be happy. You're going to be happy while it's happening. And as Sarah would say, there's a category for that. No matter what it is you want to read, there's a category for that. And when it comes to the trashy side of category romance, I think the more you up the sizzle quotient, the likelier you are to get there. These are the sorts of things. Sarah always says that, a category romance, you wouldn't want someone to see you reading it on the bus. A normal mainstream romance maybe, but not a category romance. Not something that has a number right on it, or that has bills and boom just blazing right on the top there. You might feel ashamed of that. You shouldn't, but you might. That factor attaches to category romances more than normal romances or any other kind of book. And that factor can be upped considerably if the book is involved with sex, with sizzle. And the category romance line that for this channel, I think I'm going to indulge myself for the month of Garb August, because when it comes to trash, there's a point to me mentioning it. August is the month of Garb August, of an event created by our dark Sith Lord Ollie at Criminale, designed to celebrate trash for the whole of the month of August. I think it's only fitting that if it's Garb August, maybe for this channel I should concentrate on wallowing in category trash. And when it comes to category trash, well, the Harlequin Blaze line, late lamented, specialized in that sort of thing. Absolutely specialized in it. Right from the bright red cover and the saucy cover photo, straight through the book. In a lot of Harlequin categories, I would argue most of them, sex, anything explicit, is very much downplayed or absent completely. Even in some Harlequin categories, even the hint of sex is absent completely. Because that's what the readers want. There are readers who say, I want this in my book. I want to know what I'm getting and what I'm not ahead of time. There's nothing wrong with that at all. That does not lessen you as a reader at all to want to know ahead of time what is not going to happen in your book. That if I get emotionally attached to the main character, the bad guy's not going to cut her head off and put it in a mailing box. That sort of thing. You want to know ahead of time. Fine. Well, with Blaze, you know ahead of time. You know what you're getting. And for today, I'm picking Harlequin Blaze. This is Tempt Me Again by Wendy Etherington. And if you look closely at this cover, you can see I'm counting 2, maybe 3 criminal misdemeanors that are happening on this cover. But this is a story that is set in a made-up location, which a lot of romances are. Romance authors love to do that. They love to make up a location and give the location kind of a starring role in the stories. This is Palmer's Island, which is off the coast of South Carolina. So it's down in the deep south. It's a lovely, warm, sultry place that Wendy Etherington gets to populate with eccentric characters that can pop up from book to book. So you have a location-based romances are very popular there. They are all the rage. Actually, the same thing is true for location-based cozy mysteries. And I think part of the reason is that the reader gets to feel more and more welcome. The reader gets to know secondary characters, physical locations, businesses, that sort of thing, that stay true irrespective of the plot of any one book. And that makes you feel all the more welcome. So, believe it or not, this thing might qualify as a cozy Blaze arc. I wouldn't have thought possible. Because this involves our two main characters, Andrea Hastings, who has returned to the island a lot of times with location-based stories, whether it's Thomas Wolfe or cozy mystery, or especially location-based romances. A lot of times, one or both of the two main characters will be returning home. Andrea Hastings is returning to Palmer's Island, and on Palmer's Island is a lieutenant, a deputy sheriff named Tyler Landry. And they have a past. Andrea got drunk one night and offered herself to Tyler. And those of you who are more accustomed to chaste romances might be saying, oh, she offered him to be a designated driver? No, no, I'm talking about the kind of offering you do spread eagle on a pool table. She offered herself to Tyler, and he said no. He said no. He turned her down. And she was modified. But he's been on her mind ever since. It's kind of an ideal dreamboat. Kind of an ideal dreamboat guy. And they return to the island, and Tyler is hoping to become sheriff. He's hoping to get a promotion. You have to canvass for such a thing. You have to be voted in. But he likes his chances because the other candidate for sheriff wants to pass an ordinance that equips sheriffs and their deputies not with guns, but with Indiana Jones-style bullwhips. So he's an absurd figure to start with. And there are, when I was reading this book, of course, in a Harlequin Blaze novel, you are just waiting. As I mentioned last time, you're just waiting for one or both of the main characters to sweep the condiments off the dining room table and get right down to business. And I'm waiting for that to happen in the course of the book, but I couldn't help notice what a wonderful job Wendy Etherington does with Palmer's Island. She populates it with wonderful, eccentric characters. There's the sheriff's candidate, the sheriff who wants people to use bullwhips instead of guns. There's a pair of characters called the Casserole Twins. They aren't twins, they aren't even related, but they make killer sympathy casseroles. Anything, the slightest thing goes wrong, your cat could stub its toe, and they will be on your doorstep with casseroles to help you feel better. So they're called the Casserole Twins. And in the course of the book, we learn about them, not a lot, but they're not just stock comic characters. We learn a little bit about them. They are invested with a bit of humanity. Wendy Etherington, I don't think I've ever read her before. She's really good at investing her side characters with humanity. There's also a character who's in the book. He's in and out throughout the book. At the beginning, we're told his name is Finn, and he is an ex-convict who's been given a job, and as we're told in the book, is trying to put his life back together one brick at a time. And, given the conventions of popular fiction, you're wondering if maybe he's going to be a suspect, or maybe even, very disappointingly, the bad guy, for the plot that does happen in this book. Believe me, you are not going to care about the plot in this book. You are not going to care about the plot in any Harlequin Blaze novel. But there is, these ladies don't just phone it in, or phone sex it in. They don't do that. They do think up a plot, and there is a plot that happens on the island here that involves Landry. So, and it drags in, Andrea Hastings. So there is a kind of plot, but really there's just action, if you know what I mean. In fact, I think I highlighted a section Let's see if I do. That I can read you from this thing. Again, once again, I do not have my Garb August props correctly in place, but yes, okay. Here's a little passage, so that I'm going to have to streamline this for Garb August. I'm a little bit on the rough side here. They meet, our hero and heroine, they meet again after their awkward first encounter, and he comes over to her house and lets her know, he barges right in, and lets her know that he's not interested in turning down a similar offer a second time. She's a little bit unbalanced because he's just walked into her house, ACAB, am I right? Before she could do more than suck in a surprised breath, his mouth had covered hers. Because in Harlequin Blaze novels, people tend not to ask permission or wait around. With his hand behind her neck, he angled her head, deepening the kiss, sliding his tongue against hers, heat pumping off his body like a furnace. I want to have a doctor check on that. The sensual hunger that fed them through the night burst to life with a craving intensity she was sure she'd never escape. And why would she want to? I don't know, maybe to shop? Do a little doom scrolling? Can't do that if you're burning like a furnace. His need for her and her longing for him were explosive chemical compounds, undiscovered till last evening. I think humanity knows about them already, thanks. Impulsiveness and a mask of deceit had led to something magical, something she'd been sure would never strike again, so she reveled in the recurrence. When he released her, she was panting. And I am too, by this point. Are you crazy? What was that about? I was just demonstrating that I don't want to be friends. The ladies of the Harlequin Blaze line never let you down, and I don't mean that as a filthy pun. That is exactly what you're going to get throughout the whole course of the book. You get more than that, is what I'm saying, with Tempt Me Again. You get a little more than that. Palmer's Island is not just an ignored backdrop for the story. I don't know if you want an ignored backdrop. Maybe you do. But you don't get that. In other words, Wendy Etherington doesn't just do this on autopilot. I very much enjoyed it. I thought I was going to go back to the Mighty Quinns in Australia, but it didn't happen this time around. I went to Palmer's Island instead. Don't know that I've ever read another book by this author. I don't think I've ever visited Palmer's Island before. I think I remember the Casserole Twins. But I might have more books in the series. I have a lot of Blaze books, so I might have more books in the series. So there is your trash report for category romances for the month of Garb August. It was enjoyable. It's exhausting, but enjoyable. So I'll wrap this up, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.